It starts with all I know. So unreal. Watch you I tried so hard and got so far, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. I had to fall to lose it all, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. I tried so hard and got so far, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. I had to fall to lose it all, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. It starts with all I know. So unreal. Watch you I tried so hard and got so far, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. I had to fall to lose it all, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. I tried so hard and got so far, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. I had to fall to lose it all, but in the end, it doesn't even matter.
Alright, guys, give me just a second to make sure we got everything set up. Alright, so this is going to be a super quick session today, going over a few of the main tickers we've been trading. Let's see here. Definitely got to take a quick look at crypto, see what's up there. If there's any other tickers specifically that y'all want to see, drop them in either the live chat here on YouTube, in the Ethical Trading Lounge, or Bullish Raid trading floor or any of the other main discussion pages where I just dropped the link. Then we can take a look at whatever tickers you want. But real quick, I'm going to start right here on Palantir because this thing just keeps on ripping. So even before close today, the longer term swing calls that I left some runners on, those things hit 1,864% gains. That's ridiculous. But that's also why I like to trim and leave runners so you can kind of ride out stuff like that. And again, I'm going to keep on riding this thing until I see a change of direction. I know a lot of people overall on Palantir saw the setup into the end of last week and basically were like, oh, it's pumped too hard, it's done, it can't move anymore. They've got earnings, so they bailed, right? For me, I stayed in because ultimately I saw that on the daily and weekly it held that support range, and then it had earnings and it gapped up even more. So still very much bullish here. You've got the momentum of the bullish market and everything else going on right now with the election outcome with Trump. So I'm riding this. You can see it tagged my measured move target for that bull flag breakout, but even then, it's still cranking. So until I see something otherwise, I'll keep riding out those longer term swing calls and riding out my shares. I still haven't sold covered calls against my shares on this just because the things are ripping. And there's not levels of support and resistance up above like I have with Tesla to really be able to evaluate where to sell and prevent having my shares get assigned, right? So watching that on Palantir, but real quick, jumping over to crypto, since this is one of those areas that people love or hate and the setup has been there. So if you didn't get in, you still have time. Like, it's going to keep on ripping. So looking at Bitcoin, right, we have this larger, or I should have left on the daily shot here. We'll look at it on the weekly real quick. You got this very large bull flag that Bitcoin broke out of and then retraced to retest that trend and bounce. So that's a perfect technical move for bullish continuation and breakout on Bitcoin. I think a lot of people basically on that pullback right in here last week were like, oh yeah, I told you crypto fails. Well, look, now we're at all-time highs. So a lot of y'all know I'm long on crypto. I've been in it since 2017. My portfolio is rocking this week, so I'm feeling good there. I will definitely keep on riding this breakout at this point. If I start to see pullbacks, I'm still not selling my crypto. I will trade short leverage futures on Bitcoin or other cryptos on pullbacks, but as of right now, this thing's in fresh breakout mode and probably going to keep on ripping. If you've listened to any of the other recent videos, you know that I kind of alluded to the fact that we could likely see this, especially if Trump ended up getting elected. Not that Harris was not going to be, semi for crypto, but Trump the last 12 to 18 months has been super pro crypto. So you have this huge breakout going on. SALANA also, which is my favorite go-to crypto project for heading into 2025. This thing is in full-blown breakout mode at this point. So you've got the inverse head and shoulders playing out that we've been watching, followed by this massive bull flag breakout going on here. So huge bull flag, right? And it is definitely broken out. What I want to look for here is, for one, a test and see what happens at that resistance where it hit last time. You can see right now it's kind of testing this level a little bit, so I'm going to put a minor resistance there, and you can see it's actually where it's kind of throttled a little bit. That being said, a lot of the cryptos today, like if I switch over on my other screen, I'm not going to switch it on this one, but I mean, you've got multiple crypto projects, SHIB, Dogecoin was up like 35% at one point, so they went nuts. A lot of the crypto stocks also went crazy. So just to kind of shift gears a little bit, let's look at like RIOT, for instance. Still mad at myself on this one because on my small account, challenge account yesterday, I bought $10 RIOT calls as lotto for $34 each. And I trimmed, being a smart trader, so I trimmed them to cover the cost basis yesterday early. Then I trimmed a larger chunk of them. I bought 20 total originally because it was a small account. So trimmed off later in the day as well to secure those net gains on top of the covering of the cost. And then, held the one overnight this morning and sold that for like 200% gains. Those things ended up ripping to like 565% gains today. They went from $34 to $226 each. So, right, you can see here, beautiful technical move again. So, like, even though we've got all the bullish momentum and the hype going on with crypto, that doesn't mean that technicals don't apply. So you actually should be using news, data, as well as technicals all in alignment with one another when you're trading anything. You can see here on the right chart, though, that I have marked as we had breakout a downtrend. We tagged that resistance level. We came back to retest the downtrend in this confluence at the support level, and we bounced. And that's your perfect technical breakout move right here. So aside from the election and the outcome of that kind of kicking things into overdrive from a technical standpoint, that's a beautiful downtrend breakout and retest and then push up. So looking here to see what happens at this current 1225 range. Yeah, I entered those calls, and I am still in some RIOT long-term calls. It looks like they're up 186% for the January calls, and then which other ones were we in? We're in some others. I'll have to go back and look, but I'm in some longer term calls, like I mentioned on the other videos recently. Crypto stocks are going to be banging from now into 2025. Crypto's going to keep on rocking. It's looking good. I didn't full blown expect within a day for us to rip 30% basically on RIOT, but hey, I'll take it, right? So we'll see what happens there. Same thing on Mara, Coin, MicroStrategy. If you look at any of those stocks, they all went basically parabolic today with the election outcome. So, like I mentioned in Discord channels, I'm being careful into tomorrow because you got the FOMC rate decision. We'll see how that impacts the markets as a whole. But ultimately, a lot of these tickers are breaking out with heavy bullish momentum. Be careful for gap fills. The crypto stocks, those are super volatile and they may not gap fill. We'll see. But there's some other stocks that they gapped up significantly overnight that they never went back and back tested and filled their gaps. So I'm not saying 100% time that gaps do get filled. I'm just saying be careful because typically they do. So we may see some of those stocks come back and gap fill. They gapped up significantly, like Tesla, for instance, which here I'll look at Tesla real quick, because I went ahead and sold 2 more covered calls today. So Tesla got that big, nice gap up because Elon and Trump are buddies, which is great. Y'all know I've got significant Tesla holdings, so I'm glad that we're actually getting the breakout here. I'll keep selling covered calls if it makes sense. I bought to close a few while I was up significantly when I made the post. When was that? 2 days ago? Yeah, it might have been yesterday, but I think it was 2 days ago. But I bought to close a few of them and want to sort of gauge things out. I did sell 2 more, I think the 260 strikes earlier today for December 20th. I don't know if I'm up or down on those right now. Usually when I initially sell them, it's okay if they go, negative a few $100, because ultimately I'm probably still very much net positive on strike plus premium on that play. But I sold covered calls here because that was a massive gap up off of really no news aside from the fact that Trump got elected and there's the correlation with Trump and Elon. So I'm watching carefully here. I sold my covered calls to hedge my long-term shareholdings. Also, I showed the well flows earlier today. It looks like a lot of call premiums are being sold to open at this point from the larger funds and wells, which is what we typically see on any of these other big spikes whenever there's expected pullback. So we'll see what happens as Tesla closes the week out. If it can close the week and push higher, that's great. Like I've been mentioning on many of these videos, and what I want to see here is we need to see a high above the 300 level, which is this previous lower high. So if we get the high above that level, that's awesome. That means technically at that point, if we get the confirmation above that the downtrend is no longer intact and that we've reversed trend is what potentially is happening there. So I'm looking for that on the weekly and monthly chart, specifically for the candles. I want to be careful here because it's not uncommon for us to see big, huge pushes on Tesla followed by a wick. So be careful, especially into tomorrow. I mean, we had significant buying volume, so what we need to see here is that volume sustaining. Because if that volume actually tapers off heavily and people start taking profits, which you need to be careful of that right here in this 300 zone, that's a supply zone where people will start selling heavily. It's also where there's a lot of cost basis from some of the previous runs, so definitely want to be careful. I'm not saying sell your shares, but there is a reason why I went ahead and sold covered calls in this range, because I'm going to trade the thing smart. I'm not going to get silly. One thing I did also notice earlier today that I'll go ahead and call out right here, because I don't have it on this chart, but it was on my other chart, and I was wondering why I didn't have it here. Oops. You can see here there's actually a gap on Tesla's daily chart that it filled today. So I marked it right there. You can see the gap here. If I jump over here and I look at like the here, I'm gonna look at the daily just so that you can see it. Or no, we'll jump down that time frame. So you can see we actually see how we filled that gap from that previous daily gap up and perfectly rejected at it multiple times. That is a red flag. So even though this is a big bullish push and that's great and all, I sold my covered calls because I saw the rejections, and like I said, the overall larger funds didn't appear to be exiting call positions that they had sold to open. Rather, they actually sold to open more. So just something to keep in mind. Again, bullish long term on Elon and Tesla as a whole, but protecting my investment accordingly in the meantime, because I've grown my Tesla holdings by doing that. So if we tank here, I can potentially buy to close the covered calls. If we continue to rip up, I can either buy to close the covered calls if I really wanted to, or I could risk and see how things go into December and get closer to expiration, see if we're going to reject back to where they're out of the money. So I will evaluate that based off kind of what happens the rest of this week. I've bought and sold, I've sold and bought to close, or sold and had expire worthless covered calls on Teslas many times over the last 3 years now, to where technically I guess my cost basis is significantly down. So that being said, we'll see what happens here. Apple and Meta are two stocks today that showed weakness while the broader market absolutely ripped. So let me show you why I am watching those carefully here. So Apple, you had a breakdown of that uptrend, and now we have formed a very clear and clean bear flag here. And it wicked up and rejected again. So that's something you want to watch out here, because if it does indeed break to the downside from this flag, the measured move is in that 207 to 210 range. I am in some Lotto Apple puts at this point, just because we had a lot of negative news related to it, plus the setup is overly not bullish at the moment. So yeah, I'm swinging puts on Apple at this point. Very small position. I'm not doing anything that's like large money at this point until we see how things shake out with the FOMC rate decision. But it's not uncommon. I think today might have been actually the biggest day for some of the indexes of 2024. And it's not crazy or uncommon when we have a huge, massive green day like that to see a very harsh and rejection the following day, especially when there's data or Fed events related to it. So watching that, I'll look at QQQ and SPY really quick in a moment, but I am going to jump over real quick to look at Meta and show you what I'm watching there. So Meta, you can see that it's attempting to hold this trend, which the Lotto puts that I talked about yesterday that I traded on it, they hit what, 93% gains this morning. So like, I trimmed them, covered my cost basis fully, but as you can see, we are very much still respecting this bear flag at this point on Meta. So I will be watching that, see what happens. It's testing this trend line at this point on the larger time frame. So break of trend, retest of trend. If it can hold that and push up, that's great. If it basically stays below this level and can't push higher and rejects, sucker's going to crash and it's going to dive hard. There is not a lot of love, regardless of the article you saw 3 weeks ago, between Trump and Zuckerberg. So people know it, and that's part of why you saw this thing down today, even when the broader markets and tech absolutely ripped, is because that's not so great for Zuckerberg at this point that Trump got elected. So watching that, QQQ. So you can see we got that nice new push to the new high. My measured move for the upside here, if it can hold the upside move, is actually in that 550 range. That being said, there's this gap down below now. That's a significant gap. And gaps to upside like that almost always get filled when you're coming out of a consolidation zone like this because it needs to retest. So I would be careful here. Technically, we're still in the supply zone at this point. We're not pushed through it. You want to see that confirmation and follow through with a move like that. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. I know that the premiums on QQQ, SPY, and mini tickers today were high, or I should say yesterday and today, were extremely high in IV, and the premiums are jacked on both sides due to the election for one, but also the Fed interest rate decision tomorrow. So you didn't see significant IV crush just yet on things today because you still have the lingering Fed decision tomorrow, which is where there seems to be an expected large move baked into a lot of the options premiums. If we don't see a large move, you're going to see some significant IV crush. So be careful trading any short-term expirations. Honestly, if you're looking to swing, now's not the time to kind of try to enter into swings until we get confirmation on specific tickers tomorrow. I'm watching quite a few at this point. I do need to sell, and I wish I would have done it today, but I got sidetracked because I had to run some errands. But I do need to sell covered calls on my NVDA shares here because my goal this week was if we got between 140 and 143, I was going to go ahead and sell covered calls to hedge my position. And we got back in that range today, but then pushed higher, and I didn't sell off covered calls. So hopefully it can, hold in this range tomorrow. We won't see some big drop. I can sell my covered calls here to hedge accordingly, and then we'll see what happens from there. But I'm not going to get greedy on NVIDIA, even though I know that the measured move to the upside on it is way on up here, right? So 175 is the measured move of the breakout continuation of the inverse head and shoulders and the bull flag. So watching that, I want to see if we can sustain that momentum. Right now, I'm just going to be careful on it, though, and I'm going to maintain my share position. I'm not going to swing calls on NVIDIA yet, just because a rejection in this range can be very rapid, and I don't want to risk being in some expensive NVIDIA call contracts, even with further out, because the risk to reward's not worth it. Like I mentioned on other videos, I'm going to say it again, be careful with leaps and swing calls right now, because if the Fed does cut interest rates again, the row on those options contracts is going to slap the premiums. It happened with the first rate cut we saw, and it's going to happen again. People aren't used to that, and especially with the bullish hype, people probably loaded heavy on calls. And as I'm talking and thinking through that, that's actually ideal as an option seller and probably makes a lot of sense for a lot of the flows we saw today. So you get this big, huge bullish spike following election. People hype and buy call contracts because they think we're just going to go to the moon and keep on ripping. Except if we reject or if we trade flat. Worst case scenario, we trade flat and the row wrecks the premiums anyways. So that's something that people typically don't account for because they haven't had to deal with it if they just got into trading options the last 2 years or so because the Fed's been cutting interest rates. Increasing interest rates. So it's actually had a positive impact on option premiums over the last 2 years, but now that they're cutting, opposite effect comes into play. So definitely keep that in mind. You can look at the row of options contract and actually see about what the premium hit is going to be for every 1% the Fed cuts the interest rate. So if they cut it 0.25% or 0.5%, divided by 4, divided by a half, right? So something just, again, to keep in mind as we are heading into potentially Fed rate cuts. It will be interesting because there was a lot of wacky stuff related to the data and the revisions to the data more specifically that was called out this week. So that along with the election at the same time, it's definitely going to get interesting tomorrow. I don't know that I'll trade any kind of zero data expiration options tomorrow just because the Fed interest rate decision is so late in the day. The risk to reward's probably not worth it. If I do any short-term lottos tomorrow just to kind of take a small trade position, I will probably stick with Friday expirations and more than likely expirations into next week. But watching quite a few of these stocks, let's see, is there any others that we needed to touch on real quick? RIOT we touched on. So SoFi hit a nice new high too, it looked like. I think it actually got pulled back after that, but let's look at it real quick. Yeah, so it's actually starting its next bullish move. That's cool. So we'll see if that has continuation. The SoFi January calls hit 457% gains today, so that's good. JP Morgan was another nice swing trade that we took. We entered that the 28th of October. So this is a nice shorter term swing trade that we took based off the bull flag setup here, and seeing the options flows that support it, right? I had no expectation that we blow right past that measured move because I draw my measured moves off bull flags very conservatively. So I was pleasantly surprised today whenever this thing just absolutely ripped this high, and those calls for April of next year went 218% gains. So normally with something that's that far out, I'm not expecting that size of gains on it just because typically they move a bit slower. So that was nice to see those go from our entry of around $413 to hitting a high right over $1,300 today. So that was a solid trade. Another one that did good today was X, and this one, just for y'all that aren't aware, this is United States Steel Corp. This might have been a semi-political election trade / the setup was there, so I took it. So Trump winning, he's all for American companies, American steel, America backing, right? So that's where you had a lot of this big push, even following earnings. I bought calls on this, and it looks like they're doing okay. They've got till March of next year. It's the $42 calls. Oh wow, they went in the money today. I'm in too many positions right now, and honestly need to start trimming a few of these because it's getting hard to maintain too many. But a lot of them are shorter terms that expire in November and December that need to close out because they're just runners. So looks like we broke out. This is going to be great. I want to see if we can hold this level and push higher. If so, that'll be awesome to move up in that range. But yeah, those already today did 58% gains. Have plenty of time left because they're March expiration, so I will ride that out. Hood is another one that's looking great, which is probably as a result of crypto. Man, look at this. Like all these beautiful bullish technical setups, and people act like I'm a bear, and I'm like, nah. My inner bull is strong. Y'all just haven't seen me try to conceal it because I grew up in stock and trading stuff with AMC and GME in 2020 and 2021. So my inner ape is there, guys. Also, I love me some crypto and bullish nature there. So watching this bull flag measured move here is going to be up there in that $30 range, $30.80. We've been there before, so we're just kind of retracing to previous ranges. Just for those of you that aren't aware, if you've relatively new to Hood, you also have a potential cup and handle breakout going on here, so that's going to even be a higher move here based off of that cup. It would be something, and this is conservative, 141% from the breakout to the upside, so you'd be looking at something like this is why I love technicals. Okay, so what did we say about 140%? So look how this plays out. This just happens to be, I'm going to draw it over here so you can see this real quick. Notice how that percentage I just called out actually ends up being right about where you would target and hit resistance levels on that breakout. So I will be watching to see if I need to enter longer term calls here. If we get the confirmation and push through with some more buying on Hood. As of right now, I'm in the shorter term trade here. I say shorter term, the calls I'm in expire in February, but those had good Greeks to support this move and gave me time if it took, a couple more weeks for this pattern to play out, but it looks like we got there sooner rather than later. So I'll trim some more of those, especially if we reject below this resistance level here, I'll trim. Or if we tag this resistance level, which is the measured move, I'll go ahead and trim just to be safe. But those hit 45% gains, and that's a good example to show what I was talking about with JP Morgan a minute ago. Typically options that expire 4, 5, 6 months out, they're not moving that significantly. And normally something like this 45% gain off of that big move today on a 19% move on Hood, that's about what you can expect, which those were down 20 or 30%. So I'm betting that was a 70% move today on that option contract. But even then, you don't see 100, 200, 300% gains on stuff that's that far out normally. So like those PLTR calls that we're in that are over 1,800% gains now, that didn't happen in a day. We entered those last December, and that was a long-term swing trade that we trimmed earlier on, and I've been riding runners the whole time. So that's why I like that approach, especially with swing trades, of trimming to cover my cost basis at the first logical point. So that might be a resistance level if it's calls. It may be at a certain target where if I hit 30%, I can sell off maybe a portion of my position to cover the cost basis. Whatever it takes to protect your capital is the approach you should take. So keep in mind that we still have bullish movement here. A lot of this stuff could be impacted by FMOC and the rate decision, but I'm loving it so far. Really crypto, like I'm hyped over crypto right now. I'm not going to verbally say like the crypto holdings on here just because I don't know who all's watching, and hackers amongst the crypto realm are strong and spammers, but those of you that are in the discords with me, y'all have seen kind of how significant my stake is in crypto, and like I said, I've been in it since 2017, so I love me some crypto, and most of that stuff came from mining rewards in 2018, 2019, back when I was mining various altcoins at the time and a little bit of Ethereum, and then use those mining rewards to convert over to different cryptocurrencies on cold storage wallets. So that approach seems to be working well. I am curious real quick, I'm not going to say the number, but I am going to go over and look. I hit a new high. So yeah, I'll drop it in the Discord channels, and I'm not sharing that to brag. I'm sharing it more so to show you the percentage gains with a lot of these crypto projects that if you were to ask a lot of people at the points that I added to some of these, like Solana for instance, when I bought it in January of last year, people were like, oh yeah, that's done. Basically it ran, it's over with. Well, I'm currently up 1,317% on my Solana position from last year. So just because you missed that initial bull run with crypto back in 2020 and 2021, I shouldn't say initial because we had one before that, but that initial big retail trading bull run with crypto doesn't mean that you've missed your chance to trade crypto. Like I've mentioned before, crypto is going to keep rocking into 2025. It's looking strong. So if you want, on some of these projects, you can look for retracements and pullback to levels of resistance and then go from there. If you're long-term holding on them, you can buy and hold. And like, I'm not going to tell you the dollar cost average because I'm not a big fan of just telling people a dollar cost average to try to save positions in general. I think it can be bad advice when you're talking about calls and puts, but crypto, I'm pretty optimistic and feel strong about upside movement for crypto into 2025 and 2026. So a lot of the primary projects that I am in, obviously Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, XLM is one I'm big in right now. Tony said I need to do some analysis of my charts and figure out your system, but I've been lazy. Are you listening, Tony, or are you just throwing that out there? I'm not used to you sitting in on live stream, so if you're here, that's cool. If not, let's figure it out. You can listen in later, but yeah, like I was saying, XLM, Stellar Lumens. If you aren't familiar, XLM is a great way to transfer crypto from wallet to wallet. So if you're kicking over from one exchange to another, or like me, if I'm trading on one of the Robinhood accounts and I want to shift off funds, but I don't want to move it to a bank account, then normally I'll use something like Stellar Lumens or Doge. I mean, XLM has low transaction fees, so I'll use that most of the time, but I'll use XLM to transfer funds off of a Robinhood account now that they have wallets and I can transfer in and out. There's multiple reasons I do that. For one, it's instant, but also there's some tax benefits of doing that as compared to transferring to a bank account, right? So read between the lines and do your own research related to that topic. But several other projects that I kind of am bullish on right here that I'm still in with some of my larger allocations are going to be Avalanche or AVAX. Dogecoin I've got a good bit of, Polygon, Matic, Cosmos Hub, which is Atom, ATOM, that's another good one I'm in. That one really is kind of held back right now just because the overall situation with it. So that one I took a small position recently. I wasn't in that one longer term. I only have 500 of those, so we'll see what happens there. But like I said, Solana's probably my biggest go-to right now, even though I have been in that since last year, and my cost basis was like ridiculous. It's like $13. Actually, here, I'll click real quick. I'm curious. But yeah, my cost basis for Solana, and sorry I'm talking about the topics without it being on the screen. Hopefully it's still beneficial and valuable for y'all to understand the logic and kind of what I'm thinking through with some of these cryptos. But yeah, like Solana, sure, my cost basis was very low on this. That being said, it's still a buy for me, so might have to throw a bit of my bonus that I get this month into some Solana and grow it from there. But yeah, I bought January 2023, so I didn't get the absolute low, but I bought here in this kind of push up because there was a breakout on the smaller time frame. And at the time I had some mining rewards I need to park somewhere. So not saying that to say, hey, you missed it, because by no means did you miss it. The measured move on Solana at this point, based off this bull flag alone, is something like, let me see. Look, that has a 700% flagpole. That's ridiculous. You're not going to see crap like that on most stocks. So, blowing past the 250 previous highs, like most definitely within reason, but you get the drift here, right? Like if I was to take and use our normal measurement that you would use for a bull flag breakout measurement, like I'm not even going to keep going up because you can see Solana here, like I'm at 200% from current price level and it's at 550. I'm not saying definitively it goes that high because market cap's a thing, but just something to keep in mind that you haven't missed the boat on a lot of these cryptos. People would have said the same thing about Bitcoin and Ethereum back in 2017, and I can tell you even family members said the same thing. Some of y'all have seen the pictures because I took screenshots and I actually texted them to family members back in 2017. And I specifically remember this. Kind of got goosebumps about it right now, talking about it because it's kind of funny. But I sent screenshots to several family members because I was like really big into crypto, and I was like, hey guys, I know we're going to be all together for Thanksgiving next week and you should go ahead and buy some of this. Well, it jumped up a lot between that week that I'd sent the first screenshot and then Thanksgiving week when I took another screenshot and reminded them. And then basically they were like, oh yeah, I missed out, I didn't listen, or I don't trust that. Dave Ramsey says crypto's a scam. And like, I'm not knocking Dave Ramsey because I agree with some of his stuff, but the dude doesn't get crypto or doesn't agree with it, and that's fine. But ultimately, I'm telling the story because in 2017 around Thanksgiving week, I had my brother-in-law and father-in-law both thought that, I missed the boat, so there's no point in pursuing it now. Had they only bought then, right? And people have basically said the same thing about crypto, like I said, since 2017 when I was in. Because I entered right around probably right in this October-November time frame. I remember the first pump and run here, which it was hard to buy crypto back here. I don't think people realize how hard it was to actually purchase crypto back in 2018 through 2020. Like, until 2020 came and stuff started getting on Robinhood and Coinbase for the masses, like, I mean, I'm OG crypto that, like, the emails I've got from Coinbase aren't even from Coinbase from back then. I forget what it was even called, but it wasn't Mt. Gox because that was the scam one, but it was like some random exchange name. Golden Pips asks, signals for small account, what amount of capital do you recommend to start with? How often do you give signal? So Golden Pips, to answer your question, and I don't know if you're on the live stream, but I'm going to verbally answer it here, and then we can talk through it more if you need to. But the small account challenge that I've been doing right now, I haven't, like, there's not a specific dollar amount that you have to actually use for that by any means, and it's not a challenge to compete with others. It's more so compete with yourself to some extent, because I'm not going to tell somebody specifically when to sell something. I'll alert when trades are up at least 5% gains, and I'll alert them periodically as we hit certain targets. But a lot of those alerts for the small account challenge are just simply ones that I will trade over in a small account that I'm using. For instance, this week I think I started that small account with $3,000. I'll tell you what, I will do this because it's going to be fun and entertaining, and I sold off several of the positions yesterday and today. I'm going to shift off via crypto like I just talked about. I'll shift off some of the funds to where it's like truly a like tiny small account tomorrow. It probably, I think I can get it down to like a few $100 maybe, or minimally, because I am still in like one or two positions on there with a single contract, but I know I can probably get it down to around the $300 range. So let me try to refresh and restart a $300 account challenge on that account for that one Robinhood account tomorrow. Yeah, I'll do that. You can start with any amount of capital you want. A lot of the alerts I take and trade in that account, the options contracts are under $1 or $100 each. A lot of them are under $30 to $50 each. So normally you can trade 1 to 3 contracts per alert on that kind of trade or that type of account, and you don't have to take all of the trades by any means. So just throwing it out there. I do alert those with a specific different type of role so that people know that, hey, I'm using my small account challenge account to trade this trade. If I alert it over in like ethical trades and the separate channel, and even though it's an options trade, I normally don't use that small account challenge role, and that one's only tied to anything I trade in a small account. So if I trade larger options, or if I trade a larger quantity of options in one of my various other trading accounts, like my Webull account or my Fidelity account, because those are more active accounts that a long-term swing trade on, then I don't alert those with that same small account challenge flag. So just different accounts, different trading styles, things like that. But at any rate, if you weren't already on the video, I will look at it and tell you that it's about 40 minutes in to the video if you want to skip the first part and jump to this. But I gotta get in here as a family. Thanks for those of you that did hang out and listen. Please like and subscribe if you actually found value in this, because I don't know if it's beneficial to people unless you like and subscribe, or at least like. You don't subscribe if you don't get value out of it and don't like it, right? But at least hit the like button if you enjoy it. That way I know whether it's beneficial to people, and I know whether I should keep doing it, because I don't want to just spend time doing something if it's not adding value to people. So again, I think we're having great breakouts, especially in crypto. Lots of gains to come into the end of the year. Remind me so I can talk a little bit about the wash sell rule tomorrow in the video. I need to do a video specifically on that, because we're nearing the end of the year now, and wash sales are going to be a thing that wrecks a lot of retail traders. So someone remind me tomorrow to cover that in the video so that I can explain it a little bit and give you some context on how you can avoid it. But in the meantime, everyone have a great night. Look forward to talking to you tomorrow.